Hi guys, welcome back to Known Oceans Travel. Today we are going to start talking about our past trips, seeing as we're not really able to take any at the moment. It didn't feel more fitting than to talk about Paris as our first trip, seeing as we got back into the country as lockdown was coming back in, and it was also our first trip away together. We are going to talk about how much everything cost, what we'd recommend, what we wouldn't recommend, and just a recap of the entire 4 days.
So we flew over to Paris on the 9th of March. We flew over with Aer Lingus.
Yep.
And we then flew back on the 12th of March with, what was the name of the company?
Transavia.
And we flew into the country as COVID stuff was starting to ramp up, and we were on the bus back from the city into the airport, and then we were told that Paris had shut down behind us.
Yeah, and we were arriving into a very, very shut down Ireland. So we booked a single flight over with Aer Lingus, which worked out cheap enough, and we got our bags included, and our seats included. And then we flew back with Transavia. So it actually just worked out easier to search for single trips as opposed to return trips. Our flights in total each cost €118. To stay on the topic of transport, while we were there, we took trains everywhere. The metro network in Paris is fantastic. It kind of covers every area that you'd need to go to. One thing while we were researching the trip was that there is a train pass called Navigo, and you can pay, I think it was like €20 for the actual ticket and a fiver for the pass.
Yeah, now the thing is though, when we arrived at the train station outside the airport, off the airport.
Yeah, we flew into Charles de Gaulle airport.
We had to get ID photos printed out for the actual passes, and that was a bit of a pain because we had to go find ID picture scanner.
Yeah.
Or a picture printer.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit awkward, and plus we were kind of in a rush to get into the city as well, so that took up like half an hour of our time that we could have.
Yeah.
We missed like a train, and we had to wait like a little bit longer.
Now the handy thing about those passes is that you can keep them forever. You don't have to buy a new pass every single time you go over. You can just use it and top it up, and it's a pretty durable pass. It has a nice kind of a plastic slip on it and stuff.
Yeah. That's just we paid. Did we have to top it up?
Nope.
No,
you pay for one ticket. I think it was a week-long ticket.
Yeah.
And that covered our trains everywhere. So with all of the kind of costs and stuff for the trains, then we ended up spending €27.80, which brings our transport budget up to €145.80. I definitely think it is worth shopping around for hotels in Paris. I know for myself, from my parents going away to Paris, that some places you might end up that they could be tiny and cost a lot of money. So don't just jump on the first hotel that you find. So some of the ones that we found, yes, a hostel is probably the cheapest way to stay in Paris, but it's definitely worth shopping around and seeing how far out a hotel might be from the exact city centre. It might be that bit cheaper, but you might just need to get a train.
The best part of the city trip is always the sights.
Yes.
And we seen lots of sights in the 3 days that we were travelling around Paris.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paris de France. We went to a patisserie. And we went to what was the place? That place, the first place we went to when we got off. That morning Roma got a croissant.
Spot the person who speaks French. We ate a lot in Paris.
Loads of baked goods.
A lot of baked goods. We walked around with baguettes and a lot of different pastries. Everybody knows the attractions in Paris. Yeah. Everybody has the list of the places they want to go to. What most people will not realise, and we didn't know it until we started looking it up, was that if you are under the age of 26 and you are an EU citizen, you can go in for free. We went to the Eiffel Tower, which was reduced.
Yeah.
The Louvre, which was free.
Free.
We went to the Arc de Triomphe, which was free. we went to the Palace de Versailles. Catacombs was reduced, and yeah, I think that was it. The hop on, hop off bus tour to see all of these. We managed to find a Groupon code while we were over there.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it was the evening, I think, before we were in Paris.
Yep.
We'd already arrived. Had we already arrived?
We'd already arrived.
So the first day we arrived at like what time? I don't know what time it was.
We got in early in the morning, so we were about like 10 or 11.
So we didn't do the hop on, hop off bus until the second day.
Yep.
And I just randomly was like, let's see if I can find like a Groupon on like French.
Yep.
French Groupon, and found it, and I was like, they're cheap. It was really cheap.
So we got it for, I think it was 33. It was meant to be, and we got it for like 21.
Yeah.
So it ended up saving us €12,
Yeah.
which we ended up using towards dinner. So
yes.
Definitely want to check out. Some of them are different. Some might say under 24, some might say under 25, some might say under 26.
So that segues me into my issue that I had with the Palace of Versailles. Sorry, the Palais de Versailles. And the thing is, so I didn't have my ID. I didn't have proper identification on me. I had no way to prove that I was under a certain age, and the people in Versailles were not very nice about it. Actually, the lady was quite rude about it.
She was very rude about it.
She was very rude about it, and I had to pay like €25 or something.
20, I think.
Was it 20?
We ended up splitting it, yeah.
Yeah.
Bring your passports.
Bring passports.
If you don't have a driver's license.
I know it's a bit dangerous to bring it outside if you're wandering around. You might lose it. I know it's a worry, but stuff like that, it's important that you do know and check in advance.
Yeah, you need an EU recognized ID.
So
to confirm it.
Driver's license or passport is usually the best way to go.
They're the easiest too, I think.
So that's kind of that for a lot of the attractions.
Yeah.
Check all the websites, see if they do offer that, because most places do.
Yeah, every place that we just mentioned there will offer either free in or reduced rate. It's not hidden too much, but for some places it might be a little bit more difficult to find.
So on to the food and the cost of food, which in Paris was quite
very
pricey.
Expensive.
It was quite pricey.
It caught us off guard.
Yeah.
We'd had a very kind of plain sailing time in terms of booking. We got very lucky with our accommodation, our activities, but the food caught us off guard.
Yeah, and I think it was the most expensive thing that we probably did spend money on in terms of the trip.
We spent €94 on food for the 3 days each. We got...
Now, I know that sounds like that's not that much.
But when you break it down, that's nearly €25 a day.
We went with the thing was we went for the cheapest options that we could find.
Yeah.
So I think the second night, you go first night.
The first few nights we ate in the first two. We were 3 nights in the city. The first 2 nights we ate like in restaurants. Lunch was in restaurants. Breakfast tended to be just running to somewhere and getting a pastry or something. So
on the
very last day, we were running out of money. Well, it wasn't actually the last day. It was the last night that we had there.
Yeah. We were away the next day.
We were flying out in the evening the following day, so we knew we were going to be eating in the airport. We were running out of money because we had spent a fair bit on food at that stage. And instead of trying to walk around and look at all of the menus outside of the restaurants, we just decided it would be easier to find a shop. So we went to a Spar or
a French equivalent,
French Centra.
Yeah.
And we got
Frenchra, if you will.
Okay, I can't wait to put that in subtitles. We got a big baguette. We got a block of butter. We got cheese. We got chorizo. You have all of those wrong. Bags of crisps and drinks and stuff. And we ended up walking out to the lawn in front of the Eiffel Tower, and we just kind of had our own picnic there. The sun had kind of gone down at that stage and the lights were starting, so they go every 15 minutes roughly, so we were able to sit and watch those. There was guys with buckets walking around selling bottles of champagne.
Yeah, bottles of champagne, key rings and champagne.
Yeah, key rings, champagne, wine, because loads of couples are sitting there.
Yeah.
It wasn't just couples. There was a lot of people kind of sitting out on the grass.
Groups of people.
We had our picnic there, and it was probably the nicest
solid.
meal we had the entire trip.
It was very nice.
And it's the most memorable one.
It was in March, and like the weather was so mild at the time that it was just kind of perfect for what it was.
Yeah.
No, it was good. It was very good.
Definitely the most memorable part of that trip.
I quite enjoyed my biggie.
That was kind of it.
Yeah,
like,
and that was it.
Food.
And we
did eat. Like, my biggest thing when we were going over was to go to all the well, not all of them, but like to go to most of the lingerie, macaroon places, which are very expensive. Worth it, once, but very expensive if you are planning on going.
We had a number of macarons at that. On the last day, the only thing we had planned was to go. We're going to get food.
To the Louvre.
We're going to go to the Louvre, and then we're going to go straight to the airport, and that's us. That's us finished. So, the rest of that week, the Louvre had been closed every day because there were strikes on. Yeah,
the yellow jackets. Yellow vests.
Yeah, is that...
One of those is slang for wasps, yeah.
Yeah. We booked on the Thursday before we left, and ended up being that Thursday was the only day that were going to be open.
Yeah.
We waited in queue for about an hour.
We waited in a queue for about an hour and a half because they were late.
Yeah, they were late opening because they weren't sure if they were open because of COVID.
Yeah.
So we waited an hour and a half. They opened. We got in. We hit all the main ones.
We ran in. We ran around the Louvre.
Yeah.
We saw what we needed to see.
We left, and it had closed behind us.
Yeah, it literally closed
for 3 hours
at like lunchtime or something like that.
It was insane. That it was. I still can't get over that. How lucky we got in terms of that, because we literally, like, everyone's going against us seeing anything in the Louvre. So, like, overall, like, would you recommend to go to Paris?
Definitely. I'd definitely go back.
I was going to say, would you go back?
Yeah, I would, definitely.
Okay, yeah.
Because, again, we jam-packed it with so much that we didn't really get a chance to just wander around it either.
Yeah. I know personally, like, going to comic book shops abroad is always a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And Paris has so many things for people who like to go to comic book stores or manga stores or anything like that. Loads like Godzilla and Gundam and different things. Dragon Ball is massive.
Huge in France
for some reason.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in that at all, look that up. Do your research. It's really easy to find places.
Yeah.
A lot of them are together. Like there was like, remember there was like 3 stores in like the same row of buildings.
Yeah.
I'd really recommend like looking into that as well if you are interested in that at all. But I really enjoyed it. I think I would go again. I think if we took it a little bit more leisurely, because we did rush the whole holiday.
Yeah.
If it was a little bit more leisurely, I say it would have been more enjoyable. But I think how fast we went, I think made it a little bit more like insane in how fast.
Yeah.
I didn't get to enjoy it as much as I thought I would have.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Looking back on it now, I'm glad that we did pack it full, because we have gone 18 months without stepping on an airplane.
Yeah.
But I would like to go back and take it at a slower pace, definitely.
Yeah. And we'll have all information on the website in the article.
Yeah.
And we'll have links to different things about like all the attractions and everything.
Yeah. In total, we spent €390 each on the trip.
Just under €400.
That was just under €400 for 4 days.
And that's with really, really shopping for saving money.
Yeah.
So it is doable, and like we didn't stress too much about money.
Yeah.
We didn't like put ourselves out of like, well, we can't spend anything. We just kind of looked around and tried to find the best price for things, and I think that's something that is important in terms of trips like these, where it is like tourist central and everything is upscaled in price. Yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't go to Paris at this age because it's too expensive.
So I think that's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, again, as we said, this was our most recent trip that we were going to look back on.
Yeah.
We have all the cost overviews up on the website. We have a day-by-day itinerary up on the website that we had done. And we are going to be talking to loads of other people that we have travelled with and recapping our past trips in the last couple of years. So we'll have other guests on. Hopefully those kinds of trips will help other people. Say if you are going to travel post-COVID, that it might help you plan a little bit better. To see where is actually reasonable, where is not. So again, this is just the first one. There is loads more to come, and then hopefully we'll be able to start vlogging our actual trips.
Actual traveling. So
instead of looking back.
So that's everything. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to keep up to date with our videos, subscribe, hit that bell button, like if you have any trips planned now for after COVID. Shout us out in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
We're looking for places to travel then after. So thank you for watching.